All right. So I am very excited about having all these beautiful ladies on here to talk about mental health and what it's like to have mental health while you're running a business, and also to give you some tips that we've all worked through to manage and still have businesses and at the same time. And I think, no, well, okay, I was going to say we all have kids, but we don't. And so we're not all parents, and that's so cool. So, but that's okay. And all right. So I would like to do some, just a little quick introduction to everybody who is coming on. Those who are just watching, you don't need to talk. If you can go on mute, that would be great. I know you are. And so let's start again with Andrea. Who are you? And a little bit about, like, I really want to hear a little bit about your story and your experience with mental health in the last couple years.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. So I'm Andrea. What I help conscious entrepreneurs do is I help conscious entrepreneurs rewire their subconscious so that's in alignment for the life that they want to live. Because the hardest thing to do is to experience growth, to up level into your next level income or your fully booked business, or even just a business that's actually enjoyable and not super triggering for you to run when you have the core belief that it's not possible for you. Like if that's where we're starting, there's really no place that we can go from there. So I help conscious entrepreneurs do that. And I had to learn how to do that because when I was 23, I had a brain tumor. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. But I had to shut down my graphic design business. I had to move back home with my parents for an extended period of time so that I could like heal and like have help showering and stuff like that. It was super fun. Ideal life for a 23-year-old. There's nothing I would have enjoyed more for my life. And I had to learn how to deal with the immense amount of anxiety triggers that then came from having a huge health episode. I had already struggled with depression. I had already struggled with anxiety since I was around 15. I had multiple mental breakdowns, multiple like straight up 2 or 3 weeks at a time where I would just go like black on my business and just like have nothing. And now I've taught myself how to cope with those feelings. And I see that I'm attracting a lot of my clients end up dealing with the same things. And it's really, really nice to know that we're opening up this conversation to say like, mental health isn't something that just like, I'm a really spiritual person. I don't have the expectation of myself that I will ever fully heal this, that I will ever fully like, oh, one day I'm just going to not have this problem anymore. And taking that pressure off of myself, like, oh, I'm so spiritual. I'm so like, I feel like I've grown so much. Why am I still struggling with this? It's not a spiritual issue. It's not an enlightenment issue. It's not a not trying hard enough issue. It's a fact that my brain chemistry cannot get on the same page with how much money I want to make all the time. So I need to like really have the tools to cope with healing my brain chemistry. And I'm really excited that.
So what kind of tools have you used and that you currently use, and what kind of tools do you teach to your clients?
I think that at its core, the work that I do on myself and the work that I encourage my clients to do is like, we start at self-forgiveness. It's not your fault that you feel like you can't get out of bed today. You didn't do anything wrong. There isn't a way that you've welcomed this in. This isn't something that you've manifested into your life. This isn't something that you deserve to have happen to you, but it's something that's happening to you. So if we can take the judgment out of the fact of like, oh, why is this happening to me? And just deal with the fact like, oh no, this is just happening to you. I find that for me, that's the first thing, because then it goes from why did I go into the ocean today to I guess I'm just riding this wave, and that's just what I have to deal with. So at its core, that's what I start with. I also really teach the emotional freedom technique, which is a technique where you tap on the acupressure points of your body. So you start at the top of your head, here, 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 under your arm and on your wrist. And we really do that while we say the feelings that we're feeling. I'm feeling so anxious. I feel like I'm never going to be able to get out of bed. I feel like I'm never going to be able to move forward. even though I feel this way, even though I don't know why this is happening, I still love, accept, and forgive myself. And we tap on these points in our body so that we can really calm our nervous system and have our words actually land with our subconscious. Because when we're feeling this way, our body goes into fight or flight. Your body's like, I feel so bad. All I can do is pump cortisol. All I can do is wonder where my serotonin is. All I can do is wonder when I'm going to get that next dopamine hit so I can feel better for 5 or 10 minutes and then plummet right back down again. That's really all your body is capable of doing. And when we do the EFT along with that, really helps you calm your nervous system so that it's like, okay, well, how can I soothe myself in this space? How can I show that I love, accept, and forgive myself based on the fact that I'm here right now? And when we can really do that, it doesn't just heal our subconscious, it shows subconscious, helps us establish subconscious self-worth, which is a really big part of like, it's really hard to grow your business, to reach that next goal when you feel like inherently your brain is broken. Like, okay, well, I'm reaching these goals. I can have a couple of good weeks, but at any time, I can have a day where I cannot get out of bed. At any time, I can have a day where it feels impossible to move forward. And when that is something, a pattern that you know subconsciously happens to you, and you're judging yourself for that, and you feel like, oh, maybe this means that I'm just not the type of person that can succeed, it makes growth a million times harder.
Yeah.
Totally guilty of that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if anybody wants to like interject at any time, that's totally awesome. If you're on the panel. So Queenie, since you did answer on that, I think let's go to you. What is your story? How do you experience mental health on a daily basis, and how do you manage that with your business?
So thank you, Andrea, for sharing that. That last part, I was like, yes, me, that's it right there. Wow. So my journey, it's always interesting when you like sharing, you're like, where do you start? Especially if you have a lot, you're like, how do I make this digestible?
That's the thing. Lots of us have like, we're complicated humans, right? And so it's like, oh, my only problem in life is that I suffer from anxiety. Like, that's the only thing. That's my only issue, right? No, it's not that way. So yeah, where
there's so much.
So do you feel that you struggle more with anxiety or depression, or where do you kind of identify?
Lately, you know, they're hand in hand. I call them siblings because I really feel like they're siblings and they come out to play at random times, and it's an up and down. I think anxiety has more of a physical impact on me, where I would, at the height of it, I have to inflict some sort of physical pain, and usually I choose digging my nails into my forearms and just kind of scratching them out, just like to get out of my brain, because I'm just so stuck in there with the anxiety that I need some physical sensation, and I'm too much of a wimp for ice, so it's like I pick it up and I drop it down right away. So I'm like, well, that's useless. that tactic's not working for me. But that's the extreme cases. On a daily, actually no, on a weekly basis, I would say I sleep in probably 4 times of the week at a minimum. And I've learned through a decade of therapy, some PTSD, trauma, all of that, to start now accepting the symptom. You know, like Andrew was talking about this earlier, where it's not like, why am I in the ocean? It's, I'm drowning. Do I just drown freely for the time being because I know I'll be able to swim? So I'm in that space. If we were going to go with that analogy, I know I'm drowning, but I know internally that I have the skills to just float. Not to swim away, but to just float. Yeah. So that's the state I constantly try to go back to. But I just let myself feel like this year alone, 2020, has been a year of self-love. Therapy, I feel like, is helped, but it means nothing when I'm in that hype moment. Like in that exact moment, everything goes out the door. But teaching myself how to love me, that was a deciding factor. And for me, my workday is I schedule things out, not in the sense of time, because that causes me anxiety as well. Because if I don't get to something at 9 a.m. and it's scheduled, I would start, I call it my inner Karen voice. I would just start talking bad to myself, and I couldn't stop. There was no way it could stop. And I have a daughter. So I challenged myself. I said, what would you say to your daughter if she felt this way? And that was the point. That was the pivot for me, because I realized I would never speak to her the way that I'm speaking to myself.
Has anybody else had that experience? Like I know Jesse and Janice, you also have kids. Anybody else want to add anything?
That is foundational self-compassion, and that's a skill set that I have really built into my practice that I teach to clients and try to exercise myself. So that is speaking to ourselves the way that we would to a friend. Kristen Neff has done a lot of work in this area. She has popularized self-compassion, so she's a great resource that's fully available on YouTube and just through a Google search. But her research shows that we tend to speak to others in ways that we don't apply to ourselves. And if we can turn that voice inward and create some humanity around the situation, that we have that more gentle voice that we would give to our children or we would give to a friend.
So while you're talking, I know more about your story, but not so much as like, I want to hear more about your mental health journey during 2020. So you own a physical location in Calgary. It gets shut down. You still got to pay your crazy ass rent, and you're a single mom. And your only option is to quit and figure out a whole new stream, or the path that you did take. And so I want to know, like, how this has all really affected you mentally.
So I am going to put in a point of clarification because it's not minor. I'm a lone parent. So I have no second parent to share parenting time with. I have no second parent to help financially. So I do have a bricks and mortar space. And I also live in an apartment. And so when the shutdown parts 1 and 2 happened, my landlord, I just happened to be with a landlord that gave absolutely no rent relief whatsoever. So to this day, they have not wavered on collecting 1 penny. In Alberta, we had our second set of shutdowns this week, and my landlord's response within 12 hours was to put a note reminding me of the rental schedule for 2020 and 21 under the door. So they have not been generous in any kind of rental relief or any kind of relief programs whatsoever. So my response to it was, the first time was to run at it like a bear, because I actually have no choice. I have to pay that rent. And if I do not, they will come after me with full legal force. It's a $9 billion company. So I fortunately did have some online experience coming into this. But what really happened in my life was that it turned into 18-hour workdays, 6 or 7 days a week. And there is only a period of time at which that can be sustainable. So 0 outside help, 0 outside support, 0 financial support. I got no government support of any kind. We now have a functional-ish online distance education program, but at that moment in March, there was none. So I'm trying to educate my child, trying to deal with his emotion with, what has gone down. So he, to this day, still has anger. He's lost his friends. He's lost his social support network. He's lost, going to school in a regular manner. And then I'm trying to save my business. And although my external business response was good face to the public, I described myself like a duck on the water. So I was floating, the beads of water were just coming off me, but underneath, just paddling furiously to not lose it all. So within 6 weeks, I ended up sitting on my couch, unsure of how to even proceed forward one more second, because things started coming into my email box and into my text box that I would look at. Some of them I would respond to, don't have any recollection of those responses. Some of them I would completely forget. So I started losing my purse. Which I've lost my purse probably 75 times. I started, everything started to feel really hard and really heavy. And I reached out to a mental health doctor. Fortunately, that was one government service that was covered under healthcare, because as a business owner, I do not have an access plan into $250 an hour therapy. And my income had dropped very significantly. So I was able to find a pathway into a therapy program, and much to my great surprise, she told me that I had situational depression. So that was really interesting to me, because I'm sure that some other people on this call can really relate to this, but everything that I thought about depression and what it would look like and what it would feel like was not something that I thought I was experiencing. So I think that depression, and part of why I'm part of this conversation right now, is because we often describe depression as sadness, and I'm not really sad. That's not what it is. I can laugh and I can have joy. And so I think that there is a whole missing piece of the conversation where people really do struggle to even self-identify that they need help. Some people have had, lifelong mental health conditions, and other people may be like me, where that is a new scenario and it may be situationally linked. But we need to join this conversation and say, hey, this is me too. And so I've had now 2 bouts of situational depression, and I've worked in bouts and spurts with my mental health doctor to try to create a sustainable plan for myself so that I can continue running my business and parenting my child and making sure we have food to eat and paying my rent, etc., because there really is nobody else to provide anything to me.
So what's a tool that you've learned to help manage with your depression?
See my son's little feet there.
I'm like, I love the kids' feet in the background. This is epic. This is working from home, people.
Exactly. So I actually wrote an article about this for Elephant Journal that was published recently, called 5 doctor-approved tips for battling overwhelm, and that was the terminology that we utilized in that article. But my first level kind of strategy was actually exercise. So the irony is, I'm an exercise practitioner. I help people feel better in their body. I do this every day. I was doing it, I teach 11 online classes a week, but there was no exercise in there for me. There was no exercise in there that I did to be part of my own solution. It was all work-based exercise. And I really also dug into diet. And so I know that nobody really likes to hear that those are the foundations of mental health, but they really are. We need exercise, sleep, and nutrition, because our bodies are signaling emergencies if we're not doing these things. And in the past, I've been a runner. I'm a really type A kind of person, but the exercise that I need right now is calming and therapeutic. And at times that can be difficult, because there is value in things like kickboxing, but my nervous system is amped up, and my nervous system is seeing this entire scenario as an emergency. So I need to do yin. I need to do Yamana body rolling. I need to go for a walk and not go for a run. I need to do things that actually signal to my body that there's a sense of safety and nourishment. And then from there, so once I had, I really, really, really got kind of anal retentive about my diet. We have to eat vegetables and vegetables and vegetables and just get those nutrients into my body, into my brain. I'm a health coach, so this wasn't something that I had information about. But when you're in that more depressed, overwhelmed state, you don't really want to create a stir fry. You want potato chips and chocolate and maybe alcohol, or, maybe? I have
Maybe?
Right, exactly. So our brain tends to want really quick foods that are high in calorie density, but not necessarily high in nutrient density.
Yeah.
So those were really foundational. And then I actually did supplement with 5-HTP so that I could kind of equalize my sleep and stop waking up at 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the first 3 things I did. And then some of those doctor overwhelm tips, quit for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to start saying, you know, these 18-hour days, these 16-hour days, there's going to be some days I just need to stop. I need to actually do nothing. I actually, after the second round of announcements, I had a quit for a bit day. Today, we're literally not doing anything. We're not responding to clients. All of these texts that are coming in, we're just going to leave these. And I took a vacation from it. And that was really helpful because, you know, in 24 hours, I got back on track, but it was because I was just kind of leaned into that, sat on my couch and cried. and then, you know, I said in the article, we are used to taking vacations and we don't need a physical plane to take that vacation. And I think that that has been one of the biggest pieces for me is looking at my work and my life as almost a DJ deck, and we have to turn some stuff down and we have to turn some stuff up. And sometimes what we need to turn up is time on the couch, time in bed, time in the bath, time when we just say, we're just going to be what Andrea said, we're going to be in this ocean.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Jessie, what is your story? You've had a lot of experiences in your life, and and you've been very open about your path. But so share your story a little bit with us, if you would.
I'll start right from the very beginning because it's very meaningful to where I am today. As a child, I went through many traumatic experiences, sexual, mental, physical abuse, which led to, of course, depression, PTSD, debilitating anxiety in my teen years. I didn't have a support system at all. So I really became an addict at a very young age. I had a child very young, and something in me at that point, there's always been this sort of voice inside, which I believe is a higher power, or, you know, the spirit within us all, that always kind of led me back to this spiritual path. And so while, like some of the other people have mentioned, it's not just about spirituality, we need that body, mind, spirit balance, like nutrition, huge, exercise, huge, mental health support. Those are all amazing things that we need. And then I feel that with my journey, what I've learned about spirituality is that when we learn how to call on the spirit through sacred breath, meditation techniques, it's like calling on a best friend. So we have that spirit within, so we can call on during times of the ebbs and flows of emotion. So certainly, like I believe it was Andrea said, I don't think we'll ever maybe truly be healed, but when we do face those strong emotions, we can say, like, yes, I'm allowed to go deep into this emotion. I'm allowed to feel what I'm feeling. It's okay. And another great point I believe Queenie made was that we would never speak that way to a child. So why do we do it to ourselves? And that's what I learned from my journey, is that this healing journey is really about reparenting yourself. I mean, many of us did not get the attention, the love, the safety that we needed from a parent. So now as an adult, we have a chance to provide that for ourselves. And that's through finding ways to support the body, mind, and spirit, because we can't function without one. So the body, I believe, for a long time, I've used my body with drugs, alcohol, and then I realized, well, this doesn't really feel very good, so why am I doing this? You know, and it's kind of like now everything I do, I say to myself, does this feel good? Yes, no. If no, then I have to make that commitment to myself to say, you know what, it doesn't feel good, I'm not doing it. Whether that's what I eat, what I drink, what I watch, who I interact with, 100% make those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, that's been a common theme, is boundaries, setting those boundaries for yourself. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to add, to expand on that?
We have very similar stories with the childhood abuse. I definitely relate. And I was an addict for a long time. And now I feel like I'm just addicted to business. So just like you don't heal, I don't think you change your addiction. You just kind of rechannel and redirect it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was reading a quote the other day that mental health is not a destination, but it's a journey. And it's like everybody has said that, like, once you start looking for the cure, you're never going to find the cure, right? But it's how you choose your path along this journey. Hey. And yeah. So, okay. So how does having your specific mental illness, how does that affect your business? Like, where does it kind of interplay? Like, does it block you? Does it encourage you? Is it the basis of your business? Or like, how does that work? Andrea, tell me. How has mental health affected your business?
I was still muted. So how does mental health affect the way that I run my business? Mental health affects me in the way that I run my business, kind of in a day-to-day, like it's really a daily practice for me, like, because I have no idea how I'm going to feel when I wake up in the morning. And it's less about like, oh, here are the things that I do every single day. Here are the things that I do every single day that help me feel super amazing and super high vibe and just like my sparkliest, most outgoing self. And it's like every day it's more of a daily check-in, like, what could I do to either maintain this feeling if I'm waking up feeling really, really good, or even to just give myself a 1% improvement on how I'm feeling. It's less about waking up and being like, how am I going to solve this problem today? How am I going to solve the problem in my brain chemistry? How am I going to solve the problem that, for reasons beyond my control, my landlord decided to take out a buzzsaw at 7:30 in the morning? You know what I mean? Like, how that's not a thing that I can control, but I also know that if I don't get any sleep, I'm not going to be feeling like my best self, right? So it's less about saying, okay, well, how do I solve this problem? How do I solve the problem of my brain chemistry? How do I solve the problem of XYZ? It's about saying, okay, well, what realistically can I take on today?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm having a great day, it's like, okay, well, how could I make the most of feeling this amazing? Like, what projects will I be so happy that I got done today? What type of social engagements do I want to reach out to? Do I want to reach out to my boyfriend? Like, do I want to reach out to my sister to see if she's able to get together? Like, am I able to reach out to the people in my like pod or whatever to see if we can all see each other or whatever? It's more about saying, okay, how can I realistically make the most of having a really good day, so that when I have a bad day, it's less about like, oh, okay, well, I was already a week behind on this deadline and now I've woken up feeling like I absolutely can't get out of bed. Like, I really just try to not put myself in that situation whenever possible.
Okay,
And
so when you wake up and you're like, it's a bad day.
mm-hmm.
It's just a bad day right now. What do you do?
It really depends. It's a big practice of like things that I might do is I have like no expectations for myself. If I wake up with a bad day, I have no expectations of myself. It's like, if I can get a little bit of work done, that's amazing. The one expectation of myself that I have pretty consistently, unless it's a really bad day, is that I'm maintaining my Voxer clients. Cause like I have my clients that reach out to me on Voxer, and like, that's not hard for me to do from bed. You know, like that's something that, well, I have my phone with me. That's not a big deal. That's something that I consistently have regardless. But say it's a bad day, it could look like I wake up and I have a bubble bath with some like lemon essential oil in it. I listen to the Conan O'Brien podcast or whatever funny podcast I like to listen to. I start my day with a coffee and watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I really just for me, it's less about saying like, oh, okay, well, what am I going to do to solve this problem and be super productive and amazing all day? Because if I'm not being productive and amazing, then I don't have a reason to like myself. And it's more about saying, here's where I'm at now. And how can I acknowledge this? Like I think I'm the only one here that doesn't have like a physical child. And I can relate a lot to the parenting that you guys are all talking about. Obviously, it's not the same, but I feel like I'm parenting my inner child every single day. So I think like, well, what if I saw 5-year-old Andrea who woke up and she couldn't stop crying? Would I be like, it's time to go to school and get your shit done because this is what it means to be a person on this planet? Or would I hold her and would I say, everything's okay and it's okay if you don't get anything done today because your worth isn't actually dependent on how much you're able to get done. I've had days where I've had to reach out to my clients and say, I'm so sorry, like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get back to you for the last few days. I've really been struggling. I've really been struggling with my anxiety, and I'm going to have to take a long weekend. I've never had a client say, this is unacceptable. I'd like to stop working with you. I've never had a client say that, but the voice in my head is just, if you let these people down, if you don't get XYZ done, if you don't upload your podcast every single week, if you don't post on Instagram often enough, if you don't do whatever, there is that voice in your head every single day that's like, well, what if you lose everything because you weren't able to show up and you feeling this way? And it's just not really my daily practice of saying, I've never had that be true. I started my first business when I was 15. I'm 27 now. I've never lost anything because I genuinely did not have the energy to show up. I've never asked for grace in this area of my life and been told that there was none available to me. Mm-hmm. And really the only time I get myself into trouble is when I assume that grace isn't available to me, is when I assume that people won't understand. There have been times where I've reached out to people. I used to be a graphic designer, and there was a time where I reached out to extend a deadline, and they were like, I really don't think I can extend your deadline for a full week. And I was like, okay, I'm going to check back with you. Like, I'm being honest with you. I cannot show up and be on this meeting. I will check in with you tomorrow morning and tell you how I feel. And there was like sort of like a dance I had to do with that client, but still that client it was more about the fact that they'd already scheduled all their social and all their ads. It wasn't personal against me. It was like, no, we need to figure out a way that this can get done. And I'm still happy I reached out to that client because we were able to find some flexibility. And it's the voice in your head that tells you that there's no options available to you, in my experience as a business owner, has never been right. There's been trauma in my life where I've reached out for grace and that's not been available to me. But the things that happened to me as a 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old are not the things that are still repeating in my life as a business owner. That's just your trauma. That's just your subconscious programming that's telling you that there's no grace available to you, and that if you're not perfect, then you will lose everything. Because it's just, I've never seen that happen. I've never seen it happen.
I love that story of grace and talking to your 5-year-old self. Jessie, what do you do when you wake up and you just feel that this is a bad day? I'm going to unmute you, but it didn't.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, it cut out and I didn't hear the first part.
Okay,
So
yeah, no worries. So what do you do if you wake up and you're having a bad day?
Well, the first thing I do, I don't know, I find that bad days are few and far between, despite the fact, some of our recent traumas with pregnancy loss. And so I'm really grateful that I've come to this place where I allow myself to feel the feelings. And really, when I am having a bad day, I find that the best thing I can do for myself is meditate, be conscious of what I'm thinking, feeling. And oftentimes it's those emotions come up because they want to be let out. So most importantly, I would say to anyone going through those emotions is write them down, write them out. Lots of times if you just keep writing and writing and writing, and this is how I feel, this is what's happening in my mind right now, you'll become aware of things that you didn't realize were there. And so the key to healing and helping yourself is becoming aware of your inner voice, those inner feelings, and allowing yourself time for that. So what a thought that was coming to me while we're all sitting here is that, aren't we fortunate to own our own businesses, and not have to call into work and be like, hey, feeling like shit today, I can't come in. That's something I found where we kind of, for myself, I've created this community of clients who really love, honor, and respect who I am, because I love, honor, and respect who they are. So if I have to take a mental health day, they're so forgiving, and it's just like, you know what, it's this family, it's this beautiful thing. So I feel really fortunate we have the ability to have a small business.
Do you guys find it hard, all four of you, do you find it hard to then call your clients and tell them, I'm having a bad day, I need a mental health break?
I did it this week. I have 9 hours of digital classes that I deliver every week, and I literally put a note up on those boards this week saying, I'm sorry, this is not going to happen. And I made a commitment to replace the classes by a certain deadline that I arbitrarily made up, but I didn't find it hard because Andrea made a great point that grace is available. And at the end of it, I mean, I'm a lone parent who's parented for 9 years, and I love my clients, and like Jesse, I've built that family with them. But if they are in a space where that class is going to be the difference between being my client and not, it now is at the point where I do have to let them go. And I do carry a sense of responsibility for delivering what they paid for and what their expectations are. So I still do fight with a little bit of guilt, but I do it anyways, because I know that for me this week to deliver those classes would have plowed me under for another month. So I would rather take that space this week, give myself that grace, take the risk that they will be there or they will not be there at the end of it, and make sure that I'm functional next week and the week after and the week after that, as opposed to going into this ocean of deep overwhelm and depression and anxiety and not being able to sleep. So it's actually a interdependent relationship with my clients, because I have to trust that they're going to be there at the other side, but they also connect with me because I am real in that way. I'm not hiding that from them. I'm not saying, no, I got it. It's good. And, you know, many people are themselves feeling this way. So I think it also provides a bit of leadership to say, there is overwhelm, there is depression. This isn't something I can deliver to you right now. Because then when they hear a practitioner that they're working with saying that, they feel safer to say it. They feel safer to acknowledge it. They feel like it's more okay for them to be in that space. And so we create a community and a conversation around that, as opposed to it being a nameless, faceless institution, which I'm not. So I did not find that hard this week, because I recognized from the experiences I've had in the last 9 months that if I didn't, I'm going to be in a state of non-delivery for the next month to those people, as opposed to a week.
Mm-hmm. I know all of you have been very authentic and transparent with how you're feeling, not just with your clients, but online. And Queenie too, like I've seen you post, and I do want to commend you all, because that takes a lot of courage to say, like, I'm struggling today, I'm taking a day, and like maybe this time you're used to it and you're more comfortable with it, but there was a time that I'm sure that you were like shitting your pants of like, I can't stop crying today, and somehow I need to be there for my clients. And so where are you on your—
Definitely more on that spectrum, just the nature of our business. It's more in line with what how Andrew was saying with the graphic design client where they had stuff scheduled to launch. So even though there was a little flexibility, there generally isn't. And a concrete example is this year alone, apart from my regular mental health, we made a few bad hires and we lost $100,000 in under 2 months.
Oh, geez.
And after that, we still had to pick up the pieces and redo the entire project essentially. And this is a custom app project. So I don't know anything about app, but our team member does. So we had to rebuild everything, take on more of that cost. And like we didn't have an option because we were delayed in that for 4 months.
Oh.
So we had an inexperienced developer come in that we didn't catch in time because he did well on the first part. So we're like, okay, let's get it. So that's our mistake. And I went into this I hate people phase because it just felt like one after another and another. And like, I think it's one thing to deal with my own. If I'm having a bad day, I just look at, okay, what do I have to get done? Like, absolutely, like really have to. But then, you know, similar to you guys, I push everything else aside. But when you're managing a team of 12, at the beginning, it was tough. And we had a lot of people that I felt like we were just paying but didn't deliver what they were saying. You know, they do the strategy portion, but not the real work. I'm like, we hired someone to help us with the work. So that turned into like a huge spiral, and our team, the remaining parts of the team, because we let some people go, we pulled, man, a lot of hours. Let's just say a lot of hours in 3 weeks because we didn't have an option. Any further delay would have cost the client millions, and we couldn't do that. We were back in a cash poor state because we drained our reserve.
Yeah.
And it was so hard.
Yeah, like how did you function? Because like you're telling this story and I'm like, I don't think I would stop crying or like would leave my shower.
There were tears.
You know,
there was so much tears.
I don't know. You know, so how did you stay afloat? Like you said, you don't necessarily are ready to maybe ride the waves, but staying afloat. So how did you stay afloat? Or did you?
Yeah, we took a month and a half, like literally not off, of course, but a month and a half where we were just quite literally in our shit. Mm-hmm. Like we weren't feeling it. We weren't being able to be there as leaders for our team because we were just suffering. Like that was a hard loss. Like, you know, I know everyone's at different stages, but so maybe it's nothing to some other people, but for us, it's like, man, that was our reserve to scale, to really grow the business. And just like that, it was lost. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like, I had to, like, you know, we have a team to pay. This is COVID. They already have lack of other resources. So we have to. And I think what broke me was we had to liquidate our own investments and assets to be able to pay them. Mm-hmm. And I think I kept going because I'm like, this is the commitment. This is the game. Like, there's the mental health in the person. And also I made a choice to play this game of entrepreneurship, and I have to support these people because that's the commitment I'm giving them. Like, I work for my team. Which is why it hurt so much more when they didn't deliver after that.
Yeah.
But really, I didn't think about myself in that time. And I told them, I was honest with the team. With the clients, I couldn't really just say, hey, we made a huge loss and I can't deliver on you. We had to eat budget, like losses on several other budgets as well. But to the team, I communicated. I'm like, hey guys, like this is where I'm at. If you really need me, like I'm here, but if we can push this to this day, let's look at it then. And it was just offloading whatever I could. You know, like I can't do it 100% where I just have the full day, but I can generally get it down to like 5 things or 3 things or 2 things. And so I only focus on that. And once I'm done that, I, you know, go to bed. I retreat back in my bed. My bed is a very comfy place that I will just go for whatever reason. It doesn't even have to be sleep. I'm like, TikTok in bed. And I had to find
all vouch about how much we all love our beds, right? Am I right?
But yeah, that's how I went about my day. And it's in between. Like if I did one task or I didn't even finish one task, I'm like, okay, I need to go eat. Because I eat to live. I don't I will be that person like I'm gonna drive myself broke by eating, but so I would just go and take the breaks I need, but then I still have to like that voice, it's like, okay, you have to get this done because I gave someone my word that that was the one thing. And then I go back to it.
Good for you.
That's that.
All right, just for the sake of time, I would love for all of you to share at least the most effective tool that you use to manage your mental health and grow your business. So how do you manage your mental health, and what's a tip to grow your business? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
All right.
Definitely exercise is my number one way that I manage my mental health. So without exercise, it is a sinking Titanic. And the way that I manage my business, it's quite similar actually to what Queenie just said, where I break tasks into micro tasks. And if all that is happening that day is one Instagram post or one sentence to a client, so be it. So I have taken these giant projects and these big tasks and just shattered them into little micro tasks that are manageable. And if I can kind of stack tasks, great. If it doesn't get done, then at least there is some minor movement in a direction. So I just do one small step, the smallest building block to anything that could be done. Clean the kitchen for 5 minutes and call it a day.
Speaking of kitchen, I've always told my clients, it's like, if the dishes don't get done today, nobody's going to die, right? And so approach your business like that. You know, if that email doesn't get sent today, nobody's going to die. And so my daughter uses this over my head all the time when I'm like, can you empty the dishwasher? Mom, you just told your client that nobody's going to die if they don't empty the dishwasher. I'm like, that's for adults. You still need to learn that lesson.
And I think actually for me, it was really hard to figure out what those tasks were that actually were adding stress. So anything to do with taxes, finances, etc., those could be 2-minute tasks, but they'll sit in my head like a little Charlie Brown cloud. And so learning that one for me does feel like I'm going to die if I leave that. So actually really figuring out what those I won't die versus I will die tasks really are quite important, because a lot of the things that cause me the most stress, anxiety, depression, overwhelm really are 5-minute tasks. But getting those in the calendar and just saying this is the one that's going to make a difference to whether I sleep tonight or not is a huge deal.
That's awesome.
Jesse, and it's never the dishes, by the way, ever.
Jesse, what would you say?
Well, I would say most meaningful for my business that I've learned is word of mouth has been my best form of advertisement. And so just for me, it's really important to be always authentic to who you are, be honest with your clients, whatever you're feeling for that day, and making really strong connections. And like I said before, those boundaries is I believe that who we interact with attracts, and how we interact with ourselves attracts who is coming to our business, and just remaining authentic to ourselves. And then another kind of tip, I guess, is to how you face hardships. I would say kind of change your perspective about this hardship and ask yourself, what can this teach me? What has this taught me? And kind of be mindful of the opportunity to learn and grow in a situation, whether that be something really good or something really bad.
Awesome. Thank you. Queenie, what would you say? One way, one tip to manage your mental health and one tip to grow your business.
The tip for mental health is to be flexible. You know, I feel like it came up a lot in our conversations, whether it's what you're doing, how you're feeling, just to have the flexibility to do whatever you need for yourself in that moment. Because even if you have stuff you have to do, it's totally okay to take 5 minutes, an hour, 3 hours to yourself and still get it done at, you know, whatever time. The business tip to grow your business is always be doing your RGAs, non-negotiable daily. That's your revenue generating activities. Everything else can kind of, you know, you can plan and schedule out, but the one non-negotiable for us is always put in some time, even if it's like 10, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Andrea, mental health and business tip, what you got?
So my favorite business tip that has been like a really big game changer for me, because so to give a little bit of context, I went the first 4 months of this year and I didn't sign a single client. I was like, what the hell's going on? Like, this is not good. I had to move cities. I moved to Ottawa 2 weeks before COVID shut everything down. I was like renting rooms in Airbnbs, being like, what is happening? Like, my life is in a blender. This is a nightmare. And then I manifested 6 clients in 7 weeks, which was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And it was also so much. I'd never worked with that many clients ever before. And I'd worked with them for 6 months. And it was also a matter of like, these are all like my soulmate clients. Like, I'm not saying no to any of these clients. Chaz is one of these clients. It was very exciting. But it was also, to hold space for that many people for that long was a lot. And around October, end of like September, October-ish, I was like, this isn't scalable. Like, if this is what my income's dependent on, like, I'm like, okay, I had a really good year this year, which was amazing. But for the life that I want to live, I want a business that can afford for me to take a maternity leave. And I had a really good year this year, but my business, I wouldn't be able to afford to take 6 to 9 months off for a maternity leave, even with an amazing year. This was an amazing year for me as a single woman, not for me as someone with a family. So I really thought, knowing that I struggle with my mental health, knowing that I have a limited capacity, and knowing that I don't want to charge $20,000 to coach my clients, I just don't want to charge that much. I was like, okay, well, what can I do? And I created a membership site, which is something that I can, like, there's no external deadlines for me to run my membership site, for me to build out this passive product. It's not like, oh, okay, well, all of these people are going to be mad at me if I don't complete module 6 today. It's like, well, no one knows. If I'm genuinely having like such a hard day that I can't get this done, then like I'll get it done tomorrow. It's not a big deal. And my membership site is doing so well. I'm so excited about it. It's super passive. It's just amazing. So I would suggest, business-wise, if you know that you wake up like regularly and you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to feel today, this could be a total nightmare, what would it look like to bring in a membership site or some type of passive income? I have another client who's a fitness professional for seniors, and she just teaches seniors like how to be stronger and how to like stay in their homes as long as possible. And she created a membership site for them. And when she told me she was creating a membership site for seniors, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And it works so well for her. Like, she's really just like thriving, like really, really doing well with it. So I would suggest, look at something like doing a membership site or some type of passive course that's already made. And I can launch that when I feel good. If I'm like having a month where I'm having sad times, bad times, and I have to push a launch back, no one's gonna die. Mm-hmm. Like, it's okay. Like, that's fine. And it's such a lower pressure way for me to run my business, and it seems like everyone's liking it a lot. And I literally thought that there was no way that I would ever have something like that. So that's really exciting. And it means that I don't have to work with 8 or 9 clients at a time to grow my income, which like I can be like, okay, I work with 3 people at a time now, which I love doing, but I have this membership site that's thriving. So that's my long-winded business tip for everyone. Passive income, my babes. It's a thing. It takes a while to build out. Like, do not build out a passive income stream that's like, this needs to be done by the end of the month. It's like, you're going to have nightmare times. It's going to be a nightmare. That's so much pressure to put on yourself. But being like, oh, what would it look like to put the extra time I have now into a passion project with the hopes that it's done by the end of the quarter, with the hopes that I put a realistic timeline onto when this can be done. Second tip is like, get enough sleep. I'm serious. Like, you cannot emotionally regulate if you're not getting enough sleep. It's just not going to happen for you. Like, if you were exercising every single day physically, and you were also like 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep a night is fine, you wouldn't be surprised when your body was getting consistently injured and you just were not seeing any results. So imagine running a business is like exercising every single day. You're exercising your mindset, you're exercising your resilience, you're exercising that muscle that Queenie found out she had when you lose $100,000 and you still have to show up in your business, which the idea of that makes me want to light myself on fire. I'm like, I have no idea how you're here, Queenie. Queenie's too powerful for all of us. If you're not getting enough sleep, the idea that running a business doesn't require recovery time, like, no, you need it. Like, your mental health means that you need recovery time, and your business means that you need recovery time. You need to take rest days. You need to take recovery time. Running your business is just like going to the gym. So be nice to yourself. Be nice to yourself.
I love it. I love it. My tip is to be authentic and not hide your feelings. And it helps with your clients, as everybody has said, that you can then say to your clients, like, yeah, I need to take a day, and you don't feel bad about it. So I like that, because authenticity is like who I am, and also why people work with me, because this is how I'm feeling. This is what you get, right? And not every day is a great day. And to be gracious on yourself and to set those boundaries, and boundaries mentally, but also in your business. Like, I'm done work by like 3 o'clock, at the latest. And I never work weekends. Don't try to book me in the evenings or on the weekends. Those are my boundaries that I have to set up for myself, because I need my sleep. Right? And because it's hard enough for me to sleep at the first, at the best of times, let alone when I'm like highly anxious. And then also I have added like my membership group that I like love almost more than my, no, I don't know. I wouldn't want to say more than my one-on-one clients, but just differently. But it's also something, because it does relax those pressures of having to like try to give space to somebody when I don't have space to give. And so that's where that's been really helpful. Anyways, I want to thank you so much, all of you, for being here today, and for like sharing your hearts and souls, because like I tear up, I get goosebumps. You guys are amazing humans, and I want to thank you for all that you bring to the world, and keep up all the good work, my babes, and thank you so much.